recently on the Mountain Valley Refuge Garden. We were getting our beds ready for planting outside, and we were planting lots of seeds indoors and taking care of the seedlings that we already have in our seedling cabinet. This month in the garden we added a layer of topsoil to our beds, got our seedlings ready to be planted outdoors by carrying them in and out of the house, getting used to the temperatures outside, and then actually planted our very first seedlings into the outdoor garden, and I'm very excited about it. So I've got our potatoes laid out here because you'll see I've split them by their kinds. This is because when we bought them from the store, oh, those are those, and those are those. We're growing specifically storage varieties, and so if you're gonna do that as well, what you want to do when you're buying potatoes is look for kinds that say specifically late season, because late season will store better than the early season or mid season. So you'll see this Pinche and Kennebec both. Oh, so mid season is okay. Mid season to late is good. And also the other variety we got was this Russet Burbank, and they all have either late season or mid to late. So that'll be good for storage, but what you can note is that these potatoes don't have any eyes on them yet. And so the suggestion on the back of this package is to put them into, let's read this together. So it says here, that is French. That is the English. Okay, here we go. It says there, we're planting in the same spot every year. So 3 to 4 weeks before planting, place the potatoes in a bright, frost-free area to sprout. So that is what we are trying to accomplish here. And I'm not seeing very many sprouts, although maybe that's a sprout. Let's see. No. Oh, maybe they're starting. Yay! So these have been out for about 2 days, so it looks like they're just starting to sprout. Fantastic. We'll see by the weekend how they look. But right now, I've just got them laid out here in the bright room, and hopefully they will sprout for us very soon. So the way that I keep organized with all of the garden stuff going on is by printing off just these plain monthly calendars for the whole gardening season, and then I will mark when it is good to plant above ground crops and root crops, so that way I have a rough idea when the moon's phases are just in a beneficial space to, or in a beneficial spot to benefit either root crops or above ground crops. And I made a video about that if you're interested in what all of that is about. It's not very comprehensive. It's just my little bit of understanding about it, but there is a part where the moon is waxing and waning, and one of those is beneficial for either above ground or root crops. So it's just sort of the way in which the earth pulls in the water and all of that. Anyway, very interesting. I marked that, and so if I can help it, I'm trying to plant root crops when it is a good time to plant root crops, and above ground crops when it's a good time to do that. So I also map ahead of time. Like I'll write on here with a pencil when I plan to plant things or plan to transplant things. And then on the side here I'll mark how many weeks I am to my last frost. So I can see now for this week coming up we're 6 weeks from the last frost date. So that's kind of handy. And now I've got a lot to do that I haven't been doing all of March. So I've just erased that from up here. And I've just split them up into every single day today so that I'm doing smaller chunks every day instead of just one big project at once that I just don't seem to have time for right now. So this week the plan is to plant potatoes, transplant the peppers, which I didn't get done yesterday, go buy, what is it called, frost blanket, what is that? Yeah, like a frost cover for some of our tender plants that we're going to put out. Even these cold hardy plants, so frost hardy plants, that I'm going to put out this week, I think it would still be good to cover them in the evenings just to sort of keep them warmer and keep them growing optimally instead of just putting these little tiny seedlings out there and having them freeze their butts off. Also on the list this week is to start sunflowers and pumpkins. Oh, and I need to put on there also cucumbers and maybe another loofah. I only had one loofah plant come up, so maybe that's worth it. And I'll probably be transplanting cools over a couple of days. We've got the beets and carrots that I started just from seeds, and I'm hoping to just plop those into the soil. And then I've got lots: cabbages, thyme, rosemary, spinach, broccoli, you name it, lots and lots and lots, fennel, leeks. There's a heap of stuff to plant out, and so instead of planning one whole day to plant out everything, I know I'm gonna have to split those up in chunks. And so I just checked the weather for the week, and it looks like we're gonna have sunny days later in the week, so maybe I'll do all the stuff to do indoors early in the week and then get ready to do outdoor stuff when it's not raining, although if it is raining all week, we'll just have to get out there in the rain. And then sometimes I use the back of one of these calendars just to sketch out a rough go of my garden map, or just a rough idea, which I have done here, and so I'm going to keep that right on top here so that I know every time we are going outside, I know roughly where things are going to be going, whatever I'm taking out to plant out that day, where I anticipate for that to go. So that is the garden plan for the week. It'll be a busy one. I'll take you along with me, and let's get all of this done. This is March, but there's actually a lot happening in the garden this month and next month, and hopefully in May we will rest when this baby gets here, but also, yeah, then everything will be in the ground and we can just watch it come to life fully. So stay tuned. Big changes. We were gonna come out here today and start planting stuff, but instead there's obviously a lot of dead stuff I left here in the perennial part of this garden for the flowers that I finally got out today. And then also we were gonna take the propane and just burn the top layer of the soil, which will just sort of take care of the weeds for a little bit. But we changed our mind. We're going to actually do a layer of soil. So tomorrow we will pick up a big truckload of soil and then come back and just layer up. I think it's beneficial to have beds that have a little bit of a slope upwards. It's just better for the water flow that way, I think. So we're gonna do that and then take care of the edging, because the way that we're doing our beds, they're surrounded by grass which has this nasty weed in it that really takes over, and so we'll probably finish off the edging really nicely just so that it, well, will hold for a little while at least, and then we'll just have to maintain it through the summer. We've always had to do that, which is not a big deal. As soon as these beds are totally covered, the weeds don't really bother it that much because there's no light to get in. So anyway, I did some cutting today, a little bit of weeding here and there. Beautiful day out here today. It feels amazing. I'm in shorts and like total sleeveless. And we're in March, and just in the last tour we were in heaps of snow. So this is nice, very, very nice. And I've been bringing the seedlings in and out, getting them used to the weather so that hopefully we'll be able to plant them also very soon, whether that be tomorrow after the soil or into the week. Yeah, anyway, that's the plan. And then I also gotta get some frost blanket just in case we do plant out. I would like to have that ready just to keep them a little bit warmer, and yeah, hopefully they'll grow faster for us out here then, that way, and if it's a super hard frost they'll be able to make it. So anyway, that's it for today. More tomorrow. got our soil. We have our seedlings hardened off and ready to be planted out. And so I am just going to add a heap of compost, or it's actually a mix of mushroom manure and just regular garden veggie mix onto the beds where I'll be planting. And I brought my handy map, which I will refer to see where everything goes. I'll give you an up close of this quickly. I did do another video if you want to go look at the map plan in more detail, but I'll quickly show you what we're all planting today. So the plan is these peas over here today. Some of the cauliflower, they're ready to go out here. So this area, and then my potatoes are inside. They're getting eyes, but they're not ready yet. So we'll do the fennel and the dill here by the trellis today. Then I also have the carrots and beets ready for this bed down here. So I'm gonna plant those carrots and beets around this trellis here. Cabbage here, cabbage around my garlic. And what else? I think that's it for today. And then I see some spots for kale and spinach on this bed down here, so I've got some of that can go out too. So these bottom parts, this area, and a bit here. Let's get going. Alright, so we've got the kale and mizuna in on this side. I have done a whole line of kale. You can see they're all intermixed. They're kind of all different sizes, so I figured that would be a good idea. They are pretty closely spaced, so well, we'll see how that goes. I have done them this close before and they've been just fine, but there is some varieties in here that get really, really big, so we'll see. When I say varieties, I just mean one variety gets really big, so we'll see. If it starts taking over and another plant is doing better, I'll just pluck it out. And then on its side, I've got some spinach on the slope, which will do just fine. They're usually small plants, and they work perfectly to cover the side of the soil. And I'll probably come interplant here with some more spinach seeds so that they can come up so long and we can just extend our harvest that way. Now I'm going to use this side of the trellis to plant these beets and carrots that I started indoors a couple of weeks ago. I'm just going to try to lift the soil out and sort of plop it right into the ground. And by the looks of it, I'll be able to do a patch of carrots and a patch of beets. Now I know what you're thinking, these are probably way too close together. And you know what, they're close together. But beets can kind of bush out. So even if you've got, let's say, two plants that are growing together, whatever beet they make, yeah, they can kind of push to the sides a little bit. So we may not get giant beets as a result. Obviously, if there's a very overly crowded area, it won't do as well, but we'll probably be harvesting these pretty small anyway. So I'm not too worried about it. And that way we can have small beets early season. And I'm gonna do succession sowings of this later on anyway. I've got another section behind me here which will fit a whole lot of beets. So I'll do the experiment and plant some seeds now, which is when we would have normally started beets anyway. And yeah, we'll see what we can get out of this early harvest. Why I'm excited about it is also that it will just cover the soil, which will keep the weeds out. So while the harvest is really important, it's also good that we can just get the soil covered and not let the weeds get ahead of us. Alright, so there is a kale variety I totally missed. They were in with my peas here. Dwarf kale. So I'll just plant a row of them. I'm not sure yet. But dwarf kale is so good. So I will find a spot for them. And then I think I'm going to use this trellis actually before the beans to plant out some of these peas because I've got lots of extra peas. And so this Oregon sugar snow pea is so tall already that it's very quickly going to reach this. So I'll fill this spot with snow peas while we wait for the peas later when it gets warmer. Alright, now I've got 3 spots to plant some cauliflower, and I've got 3 varieties here. So I'm going to heap up more soil. It's kind of scattered all over the garden just because I've been planning to companion plant with some other things. So I'm going to put the soil down beside the garlic, plant some cabbage over there, some over there in that free area, and where's the 3rd spot on my map here? Let's see. I don't see one more spot, but there's one area over here that's really big. So I'll probably plant 2 varieties over there, and then the smallest variety of these 3 by the garlics. Got them laid out, as you can see, kind of in triangle format so that I can cross plant. That way the plants can kind of grow side by side with enough space, but there's enough room kind of to grow amongst one another, a little tighter space than if they were just closely side by side. And I'll show you what I mean by that one day when they're bigger. Now the other night my camera ran out of memory, but I did finish most of our planting out here. All of the cool season crops got planted except for the onions and the leeks. So I'll be doing that today, and happy first day of spring, everyone. We are so fortunate. This is our spring day, first day of spring here for us in the Pacific Northwest, and it is just beautiful. I have my summer dress on, my summer hat on, and I actually can't even believe how wonderful the weather is. This was the perfect time to plant out all of these seedlings. We haven't had frost for the past 2 nights, and so they have just had a wonderful first start. Oh no, this one is bended. Except for that poor guy. I'm not sure if he will be able to recover. But everything else, we've had a wonderful first. They've had a wonderful first 2 nights out here where it hasn't been too cold, although they are frost hardy. That of course is going to be very helpful for these little seedlings to get started. I am going to go ahead tonight and just give them another watering. Sadly, when we turned out our watering system to test it out, the filter that is on here, I'll actually show you, must have cracked in the winter. This part totally came loose, and so we'll have to get a new part for this filter that hooks onto there so that the water doesn't all come out and actually just goes down these pipes, which is supposed to water the bed. Anyway, just a small little extra part for us to get. Today, like I said, I'm going to plant the onions and the leeks, and also transplant some peppers indoors that really need to be potted up. They're starting to change their leaves to kind of a yellowy color, which to me is a big indicator that they just need to be potted up into something bigger and get new nutrients and not all have to share the same pot. Makes total sense. And then I'm also going to be starting our pumpkins, cucumbers, sunflowers, and a little bit more basil. I think that's it that I have to start. Maybe more loofah plants. I only had one come up, so maybe I'll do more of that as well. But lots to do out here and back in the house. Early spring here. I'm so pleased to have at least some of the garden planted so far, so let's get to working. Now, I did make some changes to the garden map last time I was out here, and I'll show you quickly what changes I made. Alright, so some changes I made is to add the rosemary and the thyme on this side, because I noticed that we already had some herbs on this side, and then finishing off these beds. Parsley here, lemon balm here, spearmint on this 3rd bed. So I couldn't plant the rosemary and thyme like I'd planned over here, so I moved it to this side instead. We've got the thyme here and the rosemary on this bed, and I ended up planting some chamomile I saw that I had on this bed here, because I actually have a bunch of chamomile over here, and I think somewhere else on this bed here. So I thought, well, it'd be great to have some extra chamomile over here. As you can see, this is a very scattered, loose plan. If you haven't seen my video on how I made this yet, you should really go check it out because yeah, we're not trying to be all organized. This is a companion garden plan, but also very much with the intention to attract pollinators, and so we've got flowers scattered all over, so that's why I don't mind even a bit more chamomile over here. And because I made the swap of the thyme from this side of the bed to this side, the thyme specifically was intended for this side because it is beneficial for sweet potatoes, and so I'm also going to swap the sweet potatoes with the potatoes I planted for this side. And so I planted potatoes, peas, and bush beans right here. And also the the dill and fennel was supposed to be beneficial for the potatoes, and I've also planted them on this side. So I've just moved everything that was planned for this side that would all benefit each other. I've now moved to this side and vice versa. So this will now be sweet potatoes, which I just bought this week and we'll start getting ready. Then on this side, oh, and then I put a note here for stones and wood, because that's supposed to help the bugs that want to protect the sweet potatoes. They find homes in little stones and wood, so pack some underneath those sweet potatoes when we do plant them. And over here I now did, oh, and we also want to plant some mustards here, as they're good for sweet potatoes, as seen now. So I saw, and I forgot I had a horehound plant right here, I think that's what it is anyway, coming up. And then we've got some parsley, so we're gonna do the potatoes here. And then I did do dill and fennel here. Oh no, actually I did dill, and I did celery. That's what it ended up being. So that is planted, and our potatoes are getting eyes, and they'll be planted there pretty soon. Now let's see, what else? Okay, yeah, so I interplanted the garlic with some cabbage, but I also, instead of planting the lettuce on the inside, I did the leftover kales that I had and purple orac. Nice. Rhubarb is still there. I didn't end up planting the broccoli here. This area will probably change because I just have one broccoli plant, which I ended up squeezing in over here. I did do the tansy there, cauliflower, and I'll just put here cauli and broccoli, so that's clear. Broccoli both there. Peas and arugula happened. This whole area is open for the tomatoes. Down here I ended up doing spinach and kale like I planned. The cabbages, yes, 2 varieties. Carrots and beets right there. Thyme. Yep, the rest stayed the same, surprisingly. Now, today I'm going to plant out these onions and also some leeks. And it's good for me to see where I actually plan to do this, because I thought it would be in this area, but I actually planned it on the sides of these 2 trellises where there will be pumpkins, so that is good to know. Alright. And I don't have any more broccoli and cauliflower starts, so maybe we'll just take this out. Alright, now the plan is to plant pumpkins all along this row, and so I'm going to leave basically spots to put pumpkin plants later on, but I'm going to do a whole line of maybe 2 side by side, I'm not sure. Yeah, 2 maybe side by side of onions. These are my little onion seedlings right now. They don't look like much, but they have grown many months. Has it been 2 months already? So it does take a long time for them to establish. And now they are going to be transplanted out here in the garden. They are frost hardy, so it's fine. I'm just going to use a fork that I brought. Where did I put that? A fork to scoop out just a little soil pocket and then plop it right into the ground. That is the only thing about these Bootstrap Farmer trays. While they're good for this purpose, they're not very good for getting out of here. Good for starting a lot, but not good for getting out of here. The fork works just fine though. I'll give you a close-up to show you what I'm doing. Alright, so a couple hundred onions are now planted. That's probably not going to be the way I do this again in the future. Using that small hole tray is, yeah, just taking a long time to get them out. So I think next year I'll try something else. They do have very long tap roots, so even that long thin cell is letting the roots get out and then pulling them back up. A lot of the roots are getting hurt, so we'll see how many of these actually come up. Like I said, last year I planted some pretty poor looking seedlings and they did great. I was quite surprised, so I'm optimistic. So a couple hundred are now planted out here. We'll see how they go. I'll give them some water tonight and report back on the onions a little later in the season, I guess. Good thing we have another attempt at them later. About mid-spring we'll probably start more onions to have for the fall season, so we'll get another go at them. But I'm glad these are now in the ground.